So I keep shooting these videos. My girlfriend says that I'm shooting too close, so I put the camera like a foot back, I guess. It's still the 24 Sony A7C 1.8. I just like the depth of field when I'm closer. Look at that blur versus like back here, but is what it is. Today we have the Canon RP. So I got impatient waiting for the Canon R8, and I decided to pick up the Canon RP and play with it just so I had an idea of what this combo feels like. This is the 24 1.8. And then I just wanted to see how the overall ergonomics of the camera was, to see if I would like the R8, because I'm pretty happy with the Sony A7C. It does everything that I want. It has amazing autofocus. It's full frame. The image quality is amazing. The low light performance is amazing. But there's a couple of things that the Canon system does better. And it's not the most important things, but it's definitely things that functionally I found myself missing from the Sony A7C. So in this video, I'm just going to run you through those. It's probably like three things that I think make the Canon RP a good camera for self-content creation in 2023. So when it comes to the Canon RP with the 24mm 1.8 lens, it is a nice small setup. Ergonomically, the grip is nice and deep. The Sony A7C grip is not nice and deep. This one's, you can put your hand around it. So ergonomically, it's pretty nice. It's still not the most compact thing. The Sony A7C overall, the footprint is a skinnier build. It's more slender overall. It doesn't have this viewfinder hump right here. It's the viewfinder is integrated into the side instead of this one that has a viewfinder right there. I'm really not using the viewfinder. I'm just pulling out the screen and vlogging or taking content. What I do like about the ergonomics of the Canon R8 potentially is that it's supposed to be a lighter body. It makes a difference for me because I have my camera on a Peak Design strap that I put on my chest. I kind of walk with the camera here. So the weight makes a difference. The lens, the 24mm lens, unfortunately is really heavy. Like as light as the body is, the 24mm lens right here is super heavy. It's, I don't know how many grams, I'll put up the grams right here, but compared to my Sony A7C setup, it makes a difference. It's more front heavy. And that's a problem for me because, as I've said in previous videos, when I'm taking content on my own, I have an L bracket, which is over there. I have this L bracket, and this L bracket helps me put the camera down on surfaces to film. So instead of having to pull out a whole entire tripod, I just put the L bracket on the bottom right here. And then I set the camera down to record myself. But because the 24mm lens is so heavy, it tips over. So one of those fundamental things that I do when I'm recording content on myself doesn't really work. So those are some of the cons of the system. It's just the weight distribution and the limited lens selection. With that being said, the pros of this setup are amazing. So this 24mm lens, the reason it is heavier is probably because it's a macro lens, it's a wide lens, and it has image stabilization. And that image stabilization, I didn't realize how good it was or how much I missed it compared to the Sony A7C because there's no 24 image stabilized lens on the Sony A7C. And it only has IBIS, but the IBIS sucks on there. On this, I have digital stabilization, which I don't use because it crops into the image. But because the lens has its own stabilization, my footage is way smoother. Now, I haven't really put together a vlog, but when I'm walking and talking with this setup, those micro jitters that happen when you're vlogging, this lens kind of does a better job, a way better job than the Sony A7C with its IBIS. So that feature, the image stabilization, is kind of pushing me towards going with the Canon R8. The lens is relatively expensive. It's like $600. But realistically, if you got one lens to do everything, this is kind of it. My personal opinion is 24mm is amazing. For talking head videos, this is 24 right now. For vlogging, it's wide. It's pretty decent to get your perspective around you. The 1.8 is great for low light environments. This one's also 1.8. And that macro, like when I was showcasing a product, I was able to put this like up to the lens. And the macro was like so nice the way it focused. Now, this lens right now does have a semi like macro kind of effect, but the Canon 24 mil just has a better macro capacity. So yeah, this is just a quick video talking about why I like the Canon RP / Canon R8 potentially. What it also comes down to is I said image stabilization. I said macro capacity. I said the weight. I said image stabilization. I already said that. Also, this lock switch right there. This lock switch is awesome because sometimes when you're vlogging, I accidentally tap to focus somewhere, or potentially I change the f-stop or the aperture or the shutter speed. And if I had a lock on the Sony A7C, maybe there is a way to do it. I don't know of it. That'd be really convenient. And then the image quality, like the image quality, what I mean by image quality is the color science. The Canon color science looks so good. Like I've tweaked the settings on this Sony A7C that you're looking at, and I don't color grade any of this. I just do it right out of camera to have a nicer workflow, like a quicker workflow. But with the Canon, the image looks better on the back screen and the colors look so good. Like I want to replicate these colors. So to sum it all up, I like this combo, the Canon R8 24 mil 1.8. This is a RP, but you get the idea. They're almost identical in body size. I like this combo. It's nice, but it's not 100% functional for me. For anybody else, it wouldn't matter. You put it on a tripod. I have a Mantis pod floating around, and I use that occasionally, but even then, it's not the most convenient thing to pull out, but it's still great. When I'm in the gym, I can record myself, or if I need something more stable. So in 2023, so in 2023, the ergonomics of the Canon RP / R8 with the 24 mil 1.8 work very well, as long as you don't mind it being a little top heavy. The downsides are the weight is a little unevenly distributed. If that matters to you, it matters to me because of what I said. If you want to get one camera and one lens, which is my thing, I want to get one camera, one lens to do everything that I need to do. So if you got the Canon system, the benefits that you have is the image stabilized lens. Now, how important that is to you really depends on how much you're moving around with the camera. If you're setting it up in a static position like I am now, stabilization is not going to matter to you. If you're vlogging in the street, realistically, you want stabilization for those times where you're talking and walking and talking. But for everything else, you can set the camera down and talk, and then you can easily film your B-roll like this. Now, this is going to be a better experience because of that image stabilization and the digital stabilization. But again, the lens mount for the Canon R system is so limited. This setup right here, I think I paid $1,600 for this full setup. Right here, the Canon RP and the 24. And it's viable as long as you're not picky about the autofocus, because the autofocus is a big detractor. So yeah, that's a Canon RP in 2023. I can put up potentially some video I took with this. I know I definitely took some video on the Canon RP that maybe I can share with you guys. All this is on my Instagram too. I mostly just put stuff up on Instagram. I shoot vertically, but the camera's not bad. The image quality kind of is lackluster. It's kind of grainy. I have the dynamic range turned on right now. I don't know if that made it worse because I feel like the image quality was never great, but it wasn't that bad. But now it's pretty unusable. And that's me being like hypercritical, you know, like I'm being hypercritical with that statement because you can still use it. Like it's still great, but it's not great.